We are live. All right. I've literally been here for 5 minutes just trying to go live. There you go. We're here. We're here. All right. Can't see comments. So apologies if you're here. Hello. Cam's comment is saying sounds all good. Okay, cool. I can see that one comment. But if you guys have got any questions, drop them in. So today we are going to be talking about stretching. I know, like I said, it's really boring. Hey, Jackie. It is really boring, but super important if you really want to get results, if you want to reduce risk of injury. So how do you get better results with stretching, right? It's a bit of a stretch to say that, but it is it is true, because if you don't stretch and you go into a workout, you are really sore for like a few days after, then you're like, oh, I don't want to do that again. I was in pain for ages. And during that time when you're sore, you're less likely to work out because you're sore. You're less likely to move generally because you're sore. You know, like after you've been to the gym for the first time and in your quads are hurting, your legs hurting, you're like, oh, trying to sit down to go to the toilet. You're like, oh my God, I can't do that. Like, we don't want to be getting to that point. And also, if you don't stretch, when we are contracting muscles all the time, that means like making them smaller. If we aren't like stretching them back out, then they are more likely to pull, or you're more likely to injure yourself. Hey, Kyra, what's up? And so there are different, today we'll talk about different types of stretching, why it's important, and how to reduce DOMS. So DOMS is delayed onset muscle soreness, and some people struggle with this. I'm going to do a little bit of a talk around that as well, and tell you guys how to get rid of DOMS if that is something that you're struggling with. Because again, we don't want to be in agony. We don't want to be sore. We don't want to be using that as like, did I work out well? Yes, no, depending on if I'm sore, right? Was it a good workout? Well, I'm sore, so it must have been. Like, we want to avoid that. So let's jump in. When you are stretching, there's two types of stretches. There's dynamic, and then there's like undynamic isolation. So the dynamic is what you're supposed to use when you warm up. Okay, so things like arm swings, up and down, leg swings. When you do cardio, that is technically like a dynamic warm up. And so there's a couple of different things I want to talk about. Which direction shall I go in? Let's talk about how to get into a workout, okay? And we'll talk about the different advantages of warming up in different ways. And dynamic stretching is included in that. And then you've got static stretching, which we'll talk about later. That goes at the end of your workout. So let's talk about the two stretches first. You've got your dynamic, which is moving stretches, and then you've got static, which is when you're just like holding, right? And so if you are not warm, if you're cold, if you haven't warmed up, if you haven't exercised, there's not so much blood going to your muscles. So they're tight. It's a bit like, like an elastic, I haven't got an elastic band on me, but like an elastic band where if it's a bit old, it's like kind of stiff and doesn't really move much. Or you've got like an elastic, a hair elastic, and it doesn't stretch very far. Well, that's your muscles when they're cold. Whereas if you've got like a really stretchy elastic band, that's going to be your muscles when they're warmed up. So if you try to stretch the first elastic that I was talking about, the kind of one that's like a bit old and broken and dried, what's going to happen is it's going to snap. It's going to go so far and then it's going to go ping, snap. That is basically what happens to your muscles if you do not warm up properly and if you go straight into static stretching, which obviously we don't want. Okay, so you've got dynamic stretching, which is basically, like I said, the swings. You've got like when you reach your arm to your opposite toe, called toy soldiers, spotty dogs, anything that's going to get the body moving and warm it up, increasing blood flow to the muscles, ready for them to work when you're lifting. Now, I don't love these kinds of stretches to warm up. Lots of people will use cardio. Like if you're watching live or if you're watching the replay, drop in the comments yes if you have ever or regularly do use things like jumping jacks or 10 minutes on the treadmill or 10 minutes on the bike or wherever to kind of warm up your body to get ready for your workout. The reason I don't love this is because you use a lot of energy. Like when you are doing jumping jacks, like, I'm going to warm up, I got to warm up. That's a lot of energy that you're depleting your body by before you even go into the workout, which is where you want the energy, right? You want the energy in the actual workout itself versus in the warm-up. A warm-up is just warm up. And so I don't love it. It also just takes a long time or whatever. So another way, the way that I used to do it, which is perfectly acceptable as well, is you go in and say your first lift is a bench press. Then you'd go in and maybe do some push-ups. It's the same movement, right? Open and close chain, but basically you're doing this kind of movement. Never, I just jump out of bed and lift. Jackie! That is terrible. Terrible. Unless you're doing what I'm about to tell you now. So say you've got a bench press first, and you normally lift 40 kilograms, right? It's just a random number, 40 kilograms. So when you are like, right, I'm going to go into my lift, you don't just like put 40 on the bar and start pumping, do you? You got to build it up. So maybe you'd start with a couple of dumbbells, maybe do some push-ups, maybe then you'd add on some weights, maybe you'd add on 10s, you keep going, and then you'd add on 15, and you keep going, and you'd add on 20, and you keep going all the way up until 40. So this way, your body is warming up into the exercise that is about to perform properly. Does that make sense? So it's preparing itself and warming up that muscle movement, that body movement, the movement pattern that you're about to do, like a heavy-ish lift on. So instead of just going roll out of bed, Jackie, and just popping up 40 kg bench press, we want to be building it up. And this is what I used to do all of the time when I first started lifting. And, you know, sometimes I still do it depending on time. I'll go in and just build up to my working set. So you've got warm-up sets, which are the lighter ones. Say you're doing 15 reps, for example, then you don't want to be doing 15 for all of them. You want to be landing somewhere between like 5 and 12, that kind of thing going up, so that you're getting in the movement and building up the strength. And not only is it helping the blood pump around, but it's also helping your central nervous system prepare for the load that you're about to put on it. So your central nervous system is like, okay, we need to start switching on these muscles. Okay, we're ready to like brace our core. Okay, we're ready to do this movement pattern. So it's really important that we do build up like that. Now, my favorite way to warm up, and it's kind of like stretching, but kind of not like stretching also, is mobility. So a stretch is when you kind of like lengthen the muscles, right? That's literally a stretch in the muscles. But mobility and priming is when we are putting the muscles through a wider range of motion under control. So we're not, you know, this is not under control, but like this would be, right? Because I'm really thinking about stretching my arm out, pointing my fingers, and using the muscles that I need to. So that would be more of a mobility exercise versus like this, which is just like you're getting the blood pumping. So I hope that makes sense, the difference. Now, a priming exercise is something that would prime the muscles and the central nervous system for the exercises you're about to do. So let's say it's bench press. Well, for that, we're going to use chest and arms, but mostly bench is a chest exercise. So you want to be doing something that is going to prepare the muscles for that exercise. So in this case, you could do a push-up. I know I mentioned that one earlier. If you're going to do a squat, then maybe you could do like an air squat, bodyweight squat, or you want to be maybe like goblet squatting or wall squatting, just something to kind of prepare the body for it. To prime it, in a mobility and priming focus, if you really have got the knowledge and understanding where your weaknesses are, so we can run like a compass test, which is different tests across your body, and we look at where your weak areas are, your tight areas. Then a priming workout or priming warm-up, would warm up the muscles and work the muscles in a longer range of motion of the specific muscles that are weak or are tight. So let's say you've got really bad overhead mobility, okay? like this. Lots of people can't get their ear and their arm to their ear. So try it now as you're here. Pop your arm straight up and see if you can touch your ears with both. See if you can do that. And drop it in the comments if you can or if you can't. See if you can touch your ears with your biceps, essentially. Okay, Claire? Okay, so some people are not going to be able to do this, and it's going to be because of different things, right? So you could have like a tight shoulder, which makes it like not be able to stretch as far up. You might pull it out like this. Maybe you've got some sort of tendinopathy or something, so you can't straighten your elbow as much, so you can't do this. You're just like that all the time. Or sometimes you've got tight lats. Now this is your lats here, or one of the lats, latimus dorsi down the side. If that is tight, you're going to be like this. You're not going to be able to go all the way up. Same with when you're doing a front squat. Lots of people can't hold the barbell and keep their elbows up. They sit like this. Again, that's that. So for those, then you're going to be doing specific exercises to warm up that muscle and to focus on preparing that muscle to move in that longer range of motion. I hope that makes sense. Claire can, Kyra can, and Jack can. Perfect, guys. It's nice one. There are other tests you can do. So for example, you go up to the wall. Okay, this is a hard one to kind of explain. But you go up to a wall, stand about that far away. What's that? Foot. Stand about a foot away. And you're going to raise your arm up, pointing your fingers like this, all the way up. When you get to here, you're going to turn the hand around. Okay, so now your palm is facing the wall and you're going to go back. At this point, when you're about here, you want to see what that angle looks like. How far away are you turning? Because we don't want to be turning the body. We want to be keeping the body in the same plane, same direction. How far are you turning it? Or are you not touching the wall? You should not be touching the wall this whole time down here. So that's like another mobility test. Like there's loads. Can you sit in a bottom squat with the heels on the floor, bum down, knees out, toes on the floor? Or are you pulling your heels up? So there's different tests for different body parts, okay? But let's say you've got really crap ankle mobility, so when you squat, your heels come off the floor. To warm up and to stretch into and to prime the muscles, you're going to be doing like the combat stretch, for example. Maybe you're going to be doing some neo-toe lunges. So we're going to be priming the muscle ready for the exercises that we're going to do. So then you can push harder in the exercises, which is going to get you better results. And also you're going to reduce the risk of injury. Okay, I hope this is making sense. Okie dokie. So they are basically the different types of warm-ups that you can do. So you can do movement specific. You could do like your weakness areas specific. And you can also do the OG, like, I haven't got much time, let's just get this show on the road kind of situation. That one, I would say, doesn't really get you any better results. It just warms you up more quickly. So for example, when I go to the gym, I walk, which is about 15-20 minute walk. Then I get changed or like change my shoes and wherever. Then I do some mobility and then I go into my exercises. And again, sometimes if it's upper body, then I don't need to do as much. Or, well, I do with my wrist. But maybe if I'm doing squats then, or deadlifts I don't need to warm up as much because I'm hypermobile. Whereas maybe with squats, because of my knee, I'm going to be a little bit more, ease into it kind of thing. So think about that, the different ways that you want to warm up. Okay, and next, once you have exercise, once you've done your workout, people now want to do your actually, let me get back into the actual exercises, because I want to make sure, I know I touched on it just now, but I want to make sure that you guys are not going into your working sets. So you have warm-up sets, and then you have a working set or top set, and then you have a back down set. So these are a little bit more advanced, but basically your top set is like your hardest set. And then if you've programmed back down sets, then they're going to be a little bit lighter, but still like a solid effort. So let's say you deadlift 100 kilograms. You don't want to be going in and being like, well, I know I can lift 100, so let's chuck 100 on the bottom. That's the first lift you prepared, right? You want to be building up to it. So if I'm doing 5 reps for 100 kilograms, then I'm going to be doing some mobility first, maybe some 90-90s, some stretches for my my knees, maybe my hips. Start to work on my back, ready for that pull. Then I'm going to go just the bar. Then I'm going to do 20 kg each side. That's 60 total. And then I'm going to do another 10 each side or whatever. I'm going to just build it up like that. I'm not going to go straight in with 100 kg on the bar. So make sure that you are building it up. You do not need to do 10 reps, 20 reps, whatever, just a few reps, like 5 to 8 in that case, of the lighter load. You can build the muscles, build the central nervous system to prepare for the exercise that you're about to do. Okay. Then what you're going to do after is your cool down. So with a cool down, I would recommend static stretching. You can do dynamic stretching again here, but ideally at this point, the muscles are nice and warm. Think about, actually, I used elastic band earlier on, but think about Play-Doh. You know, when Play-Doh is like really dry and cold, it's like just like breaks. Whereas when you've like warmed it in your hand a little bit, it's a little bit more like cheese, right? Like stringy. You can pull it and it stretches. That's what you want to think about with the muscles. So you don't want to be pulling your muscles at the beginning, but you need to be warming them up and making them into different shapes. And then at the end, when they're nice and gooey, you can start to pull them. And what this is going to do is going to help the blood basically refill back in into your muscles and give it the oxygen that it needs, give it the glycogen that it needs, and start to prepare the muscles to cool back down and to sit in their natural position. So when you are in a stretched position, let's say you're doing this just because it's easy to show. Let's say you're putting your hands across your chest, you're stretching here, okay? So what you're doing. If at this point, it's like, oh, it's a little bit, no pain, it's not painful, it's a little bit tight, then you need to start to breathe deeply. And what that's going to do is tell your body this is safe. So this is safe to be in this position, safe to be in this position, safe to be. And if you can hold it for like 90 seconds, that's when your body's like, this is safe, I can do this. And it'll stretch a little bit and a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. So it'll start to stretch and feel safe in the longer positions. Same as if you want to do the splits, right? You're not going to just sit in the splits. You've got to tell the body it's safe to be in this lengthened position. It's safe, it's safe, it's safe, it's safe, it's safe, and not quickly jump into it. So when you're doing your static stretches, you want to breathe through them. You want to cool down. You're going to bring your heart rate down. And that's when you're going to be telling the body, we're safe. You can stretch this far. But you can't do that with cold muscles. Hey, Charlene, how's it going? Okay, so I hope that's made sense so far, guys. Cool. Okay. So that is the cool down. In this cool down, I would also recommend working on those movement patterns that you found were weak in your compass test. Remember, like this one, for example, if you can't do like that all the way around without twisting your body like this, like anyone could do that, right? Then this is where I would be working on like my lat mobility. So for example, if you have a band on like a bar, like a pull-up bar or something, and you stretch down, stretching this part of your body, using the band as assistance, then dipping your head down, that's going to stretch that part of your body, your lats, ready for your overhead press, ready for your rows, your deadlifts, all of the things. So you need to be looking at your weaker areas, and that's where I would focus the time. I read in some group, someone was like, how do you pull together the perfect workout program? Well, you guys know if you saw the webinar. But this girl was like, I just go in and do what I like. That way I'll do it. And I'm like, You should do the things you don't like because you're probably crap at those, and that's what probably needs the work. So yeah, just an anecdote there. But you want to be working on your weaker areas so that when you are lifting, and not just lifting out, when you're going through life and you just like reach around to like hit the kid's like leg or wherever, kick in the back of your chair, like just pack that in, then you're not gonna like tear a muscle essentially. So we want to be making sure that we are moving and thinking long term, not just, oh well, I don't really want to lift heavy, so there's no point. If you want to live a long life and you want longevity, you need to be able to move well, right? So I hope that makes sense. Okay, so I had a question. Let me see if I can open it. I can't because I'm on my phone here, but I'll tell you what it was. It was something along the lines of, I did squats the other day and my legs are really hurting me. Even though I warmed up and cooled down, I think she said something along those lines. So if you get DOMS, so delayed onset muscle soreness, this is when you've got like little tears in your muscles and they're a little bit too big. So it's not a torn muscle, it is a micro tear. And when you lift weights, this is what happens. Your joints basically pull your muscles. So like this, stretching my bicep and pull, and you know, when I pull it, it's going to contract it. But basically causes these little tears in the muscle. When you eat your protein, essentially the amino acids from the protein go and fill those gaps, right? Now, if you're not eating enough protein, you're going to have DOMS for longer. DOMS are not a good thing. We don't want to be chasing DOMS. We don't be like, oh, yes, I feel the burn. I feel the ache. It's like, that's bad. That's a bad sign. Like, we don't want to be doing that. But there are some cases you will get DOMS, and this is typically if you haven't done an exercise before, if you've been out of action, you haven't done it in a while. So, for example, when I eventually go back to squatting, I'm probably going to be in a lot of pain for a little while. When the other day I did like cable flies, and I don't really do cable flies. I don't really do this kind of movement, but I have been. So now I've got like, when I touch my chest here, it's a little bit tender. It's not like, oh my God, I can't like can't do my head. It's not like that, right? It's like if I prod on it, then it's a little bit sore. Not, I can't live. I can't get on with my day. I can't train. I hit the gym today. So you want to be making sure that you are eat enough protein, and you're not chasing the DOMS as a measure of success that you had a good workout or not. All right. And then when you are going through, like I mentioned, if you haven't done an exercise before or whatever, then you might have DOMS. So how do you get over DOMS? If you have done legs, for example, now your legs are really, really aching you need to make sure you're stretching the right muscles. So let's assume you've warmed up well enough. You've warmed up, you've primed the muscles. And so when you're stretching, what are you doing? As you guys are in here, drop what stretch you think I should do after a squat. There's more than one right answer, but I'm curious to see what you guys think. Or the primary muscle that you think you should stretch after squat. Let me know. I'll just hydrate here as I wait for some audience participation. And you guys should be warming up and stretching and cooling down, even if you are doing home workouts. So it's not just if you want to lift heavy or not. Just like a run, right? You wouldn't just go out on a run. You would go for like a walk first, and maybe do some leg swings, and maybe you'd like, prep your muscles. And then when you get back from the run, you don't stop. You just like, okay, I'm done. Sit back down. So you shouldn't do anyway. Most people do that. You need to cool down to tell your body, okay, we need to stop doing this now. Okay, so Claire says she does the heel to bum for the quad. So the quad is the front of your leg, heel to bum, I'm assuming she means you're the flamingo stretch. So you're on one leg and you hook the other one around your back. And child's pose says Kyra. Okay, cool. So when you're doing after a squat, yes, you can definitely do child's pose because you are holding like this. You should be engaging your lats, should be engaging your core. And child's pose is really nice for lats and to kind of like relax the central nervous system. Claire, I would do, this is the primary one I would do. So your quads are the primary muscles when you are doing squats. Lots of people think it's your glutes and hamstrings. It's primarily the quads, actually, especially front squats. So you want to be thinking about, how can I stretch this muscle? So what is the muscle doing in its contracted phase? So if it's stretched, it's pulled, and if it's contracted, it's pushed together. So when we sit, right, now I'm sat down on this office chair, my hamstrings are tight. They're like contracted, not like, I'm not like tense enough, but they're shortened, in a shortened position. So when I stand up and I stretch my leg forward, now that's in the stretch position, it's going to be more difficult for someone that sits down all the time. And that causes a lot of pain, a lot of discomfort, a lot of injuries. So we want to be making sure that we think about how our muscles are moving, when they're moving, and what the opposite of that is so that we can stretch it. So for example, if we're using our quads, when we're contracting them, we're making them smaller. So when we want to stretch our quads, we want to be making them longer. So if you're standing on your left leg, you hold your right foot behind your bum. Lots of people think, oh, that's great. But you want to think about how to stretch the muscle more. So for that, what you do is push your hip forward. That's going to make more of a distance between your knee and your hip, and that's going to cause the stretch. You're just going to hold that for 90 seconds. If you can hold it, stand up for long, and then again, make sure you do the other leg for the same amount of time. You could also do when you kind of like sit on your knees, so you're on your knees, and you lean back. That's going to also stretch out your quads as well. But just be careful with that one. It takes a little bit more mobility and a bit of a stronger knee to be able to do that one. Lunge. So lunge I would do first if I was going to squat, like a warm up. I would use it for warm up. However, I think what you mean, Sam, I can't remember. I keep forgetting like your Instagram handle and your name, Sam, is if you're in a lunge, you could push your knee over your toe, and that is going to be your kneeling knight pose, and that would help as well. Yes. So lots of different ones that you can do. So depending on your workout split, this is what I would do. I would take a compass test if you can, if you know what that is, if you need it. I'm sure there's a way that we can run it for you. Figure that out. Prime, or you look at the muscles and exercises that you're about to do in your workout. So let's say upper body, then I would do priming upper body movement. I would do core, I would do back, I would do chest to prepare, just 2 or 3 for each, right? Don't need to be in loads. You don't need to be like sweating through it. You don't need to sweat to warm up. You just a little bit pink in the cheeks, right? That's fine. You need to think about the muscles moving and activating. So you can do upper body. Then at the end of your upper body exercises, a body workout, you're then going to do upper body stretching. And then day 2, when you do lower body, you're going to do lower body warm up and then lower body stretching. So that's the way I would personally do it. If you do full body, then I would split it up. I do like upper body one day, lower body the other, as in like the stretches. And then on the last one, I just pick two from each, 2 upper, 2 lower, done. They're like the main things that I would be doing to work on it. Things that people don't work on when they are stretching and warming up a lot of the time is the rotation. So earlier on I was talking about this and I was like, you don't want your torso to be twisting like this, but things like your thread the needle, if you guys want to Google what that one is, thread the needle, when you're twisting through the spine, a lot of people will open up their hips at the same time. They'll try and open their hips to get there. So we're going to be working on the thoracic mobility and rotation as well. So there's loads of different ways that you can stretch, loads of different ways you can prime and warm up, depending on your preference and time and goals and mobility and, you know, where you're tightest and your experience. Now, if you have got DOMs and you're like, well, fuck, Faye, too late. I should have seen this last week. There are things you can do. So you still want to be stretching dynamically throughout the day. If your legs are aching, the worst thing you can do is just sit there for the rest of the time. You need to be moving. You need to be like flushing out the lactic acid. You need to be like maybe even some foam rolling, gentle little massage. Other things you can do is heat. Heat is going to encourage blood flow to that muscle. And you can also try like a warm or hot, as hot as you can kind of handle it, bath, so you can jump in the tub, and if possible, Epsom salt. So Epsom salt is going to help relax the muscles even more. But honestly, like, don't go and do more exercise. Go on a bike, that's cool. Go for a walk, that's fine. But don't be like, my legs are aching, let's get it. Let's go for some squats. No, right? You're just going to tear those micro tears even more. And that's going to damage the muscle longer term. It's going to put you off. And then you're not going to get the results that you want. I was doing your favorite yoga. You can do yoga for sure. Yeah, it's not my favorite. Boring. Boring. But you can definitely do yoga. If you want to add on like another session, that's the thing, isn't it? Like, if you've got loads of time, then maybe you could do like four full body workouts, or upper lower, and then you've got like 2 days of yoga, or you can pick your favorite stretches or the weaker stretches from yoga and do that. Definitely, you can definitely add in yoga to your routine as well. It could also be worth, like, I don't love yoga, as people know, but I do love mobility for longevity. So if you're like, oh, well, I don't really know what mobility exercises to do, I will see if I can find this one in particular I'm looking for. But otherwise, you can just Google mobility flow or something like that, mobility, 20-minute mobility. Let me see if I can find it. Mobility, the one I'm looking, I think about in particular. Oh, here it is. Let me make sure I'm getting sound on. Okay, maybe let's see. I think this is just. No, I haven't got it. If I can find the one that I want in particular, then I'll put it into the group. But I don't know if you can get it now. But also, again, it depends on where you're weakest. If you've got crappy ankle mobility, then I would focus a lot of time on ankle mobility movements. If you've got really crap like overhead reach, I'll be working on overhead reach movements. And you can purely focus on something post exercise, so on your cool down, for a few weeks, if that's what you think would be helpful. Yeah, so lots of our clients struggle with ankle mobility. It is one of the most least mobile parts. So basically, ankle mobility is one of the least mobile parts, or the least mobile joints is ankle that we see, which means that if you're in a squat, your heels come off the ground, or you start to tilt forward a little bit. You can't put your full foot flat on the floor and do a squat. Lots of people who see little plates under their heels. This is because their ankle mobility is shit. So if you are that person, you're like, oh, that's me, then perhaps working on ankle mobility would be like the best thing to be focusing on daily for the next 3 weeks. It doesn't have to be hard. You don't have to do it post-workout. Like mobility, you could do just before bed, when you wake up, ready for the day, whatever it kind of takes and whatever you fancy doing, how quickly you want to see progress. It's not a hard like workout. It's just a Okay, we're getting used to this movement. Okay, we're getting used to this movement. We're kind of stretching one and pushing the other. So antagonist muscles. There we go. Don't know where I pulled that from, but I found it in my brain. So the antagonist muscles are the ones working against each other. So triceps and biceps, for example, like tris and bis, antagonists. So as one is stretching, this is stretching, this one's contracting, and then as this one contracts, this one stretches. Okay, so when you're doing like ankle mobility, you've got your using an anatomy lesson, you've got your soleus in the front part of your shin, and your calf is in the back. So as one is contracting, one will be stretching, right? So it's about building up the stretch and the contraction abilities to balance out in both muscles. Hope that makes sense. I wasn't going to go there, but hey ho. There we go. Jackie, I love a good mobility stretch session. I pop that on once a week. I really look forward to it. Yeah. And that is a really good thing to do before bed. So if you love it, then it's really good to wind down before bed. Ideally, you don't want to be watching it on the TV, of course. But if you do the same one regularly, you kind of get into it. You kind of know, oh, this was a bit tighter for me. That was, I could do this one side, but not the other. And so you can kind of build your routine off that. I just grab pen and paper and just write, okay, like, you don't even have to like know the names of them. As long as you know what you need to do, then that's fine. So like child's pose, right? You might not be like, oh, what's child's pose? But you might be like, on knees, arms stretched out, bum on heels. Like that's, as long as that's written down, you understand it, that's fine. But then if you look forward to it, then you're more likely to do it, and you're more likely to wind down for bed also. Cam had said to me in the workshop, my arms can hyperflex. I think that's what he said, like bend further. So do you still stretch as far? No. So I also have hypermobility. There are 7 different points of testing for hypermobility. And one of them, like a really simple one, is you can get your thumb, like first of all, like lots of people can't do this. I'm on two videos here, so here you go. Lots of people can't do this. They like have their thumb stuck. So I can see you all now, like checking your thumb. And then the next part would be to get your thumb to your wrist. So here you go, like that. Can you see that? That is a positive test for hypermobility. And then obviously I can't do this one because this is like my wrist is very, very bad. But things like my ankles are super mobile. Like I could do a squat with feet like literally right next to each other. Not now because I've hit my knee. All of which come from hypermobility itself, actually. All of these injuries are coming because I've got hypermobility. So people are like, yeah, look how stretchy I am. It's like, yeah, you're going to be fucked. So just be really careful. So no, if you've got hypermobility, you want to be working on mobility, strength, and any shorter range of motion. So when I do like a fly, I said I don't really do flies, but say I'm doing like a pec deck or a machine like this. Or if I'm doing like, I'm going to go this side so you can see. Say I'm doing a bench press. Most people will tell you, and this is right, by the way, you're supposed to get the bar basically onto your boobs, onto your chest. Now, let me open my other video so I can see myself here. So if you, oh, this is very delayed. Let me try this video. There you go. Okay, cool. So feet come down like this. Let me adjust it up. Okay, you go like this, and that's where the bar would be. You hit your boobs, right? But look at my shoulder, look how far back it is. Because when you're hypermobile, your ligaments and tendons are a bit more lax. Actually, all of you are a bit more lax. Your muscles, your tendons, your ligaments, your skin, you'll find you bruise more easily. Actually, ADHD has also been tentatively connected with hypermobility as well. If you're interested in that kind of thing. Anyway, so you're going like this. But now it's going lax because you haven't got that, your body hasn't got that, oh my God, we're not supposed to go this. Yeah, we can keep going, we can keep going, we can keep going. Oh shit, too late, it's snapped. And the way to think about hypermobility is we've got that, everyone's got that bobble, that hair elastic that is stretched to shit. It's not going back down. It's like this long now. You're wrapping around your wrist about 8 times. That's basically what happens when you've got hypermobility and you've overstretched. It doesn't go back. So you need to be really careful. So instead of being like this all the way down, you're going to stop here. And that's going to be a range of motion. And you're going to be doing different exercises like paused exercises, box squats, Anderson squats. You're going to be reducing your what's called a stretch reflex as much. So when you are hypermobile, you can get into a squat like that, like no problem. Bam, I'm on the floor. My ass to grass, heels on the floor, toes on the floor. I'm like in it like a little baby. And then what will happen with most people is you'll bounce back up, right? It's called a stretch reflex. So you go down, stretch, and then ping, you'll spring back up. With hypermobility, it's very easy to do that. That's the problem. So you want to be making sure that you are reducing the range of motion in a hypermobile state. It's a bit more complicated, but you want to do things like partial range of motions, pauses, tempos, and a little bit more advanced things versus just like, oh, let's just do a bench press. So if you're hypermobile, just be very, very, very careful. Very careful indeed. Don't want to be messing with that, because then you'll, like my ACL, right? So your ACL is like a ligament in your knee. Mine's ruptured. It's gone. Didn't even notice. My leg gave way a couple of times. Like, oh, that's strange. Yeah, it's gone. It's like not even attached anymore. So I don't know how I did it. But that's the kind of thing that can happen if you are hypermobile. I mean, it can happen to anyone, but you're more likely to sustain these kind of problems if you are hypermobile. Just be very careful. Typically, you need like a bit of a different workout routine than normal, than a normal boring person, Claire. Cool. So, any other questions? Because I might go get a cup of tea before my next call. I'm parched. Parched. I don't think so. I don't think we got any. Let's check Instagram. Hey, Jan. What's going on? These are also delayed. I don't know what I'm talking about, some of these. Okay. I guess that's fine then. If you guys, oh, there you go. Thank you for covering. No worries. No worries. Good luck. No worries, Jackie. There we go. Cool. If you guys have got any questions on this, let me know. Have a little look for some mobility movements. Add them into your routine. If you want some of my favorites, or yeah, some of my favorites that I typically use with a lot of people, it is the instep lunge with rotation. Instep lunge with rotation. I like to use that one a lot with people. A 90-90. If you come to the event, you know that one, and you will have done the instep lunge. Actually, I like the night to hamstring stretch as well. These are all dynamic, so you can do these throughout the day. Hamstring stretch to night, kneeling night, or kneel at night to hamstring stretch, and thread the needles with the extension at the end. You guys know, you got to thread the needle, and then you got the full extension. That's another one that I like. They're like my main. Oh, and combat stretch. Combat stretch is very, very important as well. And then you've got things like cat cows, dead bugs, tabletop, bird dogs, those kinds of things. But they are my top ones. I probably say that I recommend most of the time with people. If you want me to pull a list together, let me know and I can see if I can do that for you guys. Only if you ask. I'm not going to do otherwise. I'm always like, yeah, I'll do that. Cam's like, Faith, stop telling people you will make things for them. I'm like, but they need my help. Okay, so that's it, guys. I'm going to go get a cup of cha ready before my call. If you're a client, I will see you in 5 more minutes. And thank you for joining us. See you next week. Bye-bye.